by sharing, you're almost shifting some energy that is benefiting the whole group. It's not just about what you're saying and sharing. There's something that shifts and it benefits everybody there. I definitely feel that really strongly.
Before we dive into this week's episode, let's talk about a brand we both genuinely love, Cytoplan. You've probably heard us mention them before, and that's because their supplements are next level.
Yes, Cytoplan has been part of my routine for a while now. They just get it when it comes to health. Their whole approach is rooted in science and totally in tune with nature.
Exactly. Their formulas are bioeffective, which basically means the nutrients are in forms your body actually recognizes and uses properly and at the appropriate levels. Cytoplan is used and trusted by health practitioners across the country. Their formulas are developed by nutritional therapists and backed by over 3 decades of clinical insight. You really can feel the quality when you take them.
Plus, it's not just about what's in the bottle, it's the mission behind it too. Cytoplan is 100% owned by a charitable foundation, which means everything they do is about helping people live well for longer. It's not about trends or quick fixes, it's about real, lasting health.
That is so wonderful to know. And whether it's our energy, perimenopause, menopause itself, sleep, immunity, or just staying on top of your health, they've got you covered. You can also get a free health questionnaire and a consultation by ringing the helpline.
So if you're ready to take ownership of your health, check out Cytoplan, powered by nature, proven by science, and rooted in purpose. We'll pop the link and an exclusive 15% discount code in the show notes. Hello, I'm Karen Mellors.
Hello there, I'm Dr. Rosy Daniel.
You've just tuned in to Alive and Loving It, and we're here to help you bring joy and energy back to your life. This week, our guest is my dear friend and circle sister, Amy Mullery. Amy is a mum of 3 from beautiful Ayrshire in Scotland. And from her early career as a research scientist, then clinical research and project management, 2 years devoted to raising her family, Amy has always been drawn to understanding what helps people truly thrive. Her interest in health and well-being led her to discover the magic of women's circles, both online and in person, and the deep sense of connection they create. Amy believes authenticity opens the door to genuine connection. When we show up as our true selves, we invite others to do the same. Passionate about community, she champions women's circles as spaces for connection, healing, and transformation. Because when women gather in truth and support, something magical happens. I have been honoured to witness this magical transformation in Amy over the past 5 years, as Circle has supported her growth in confidence and empowerment. What a nourishing episode to conclude our season 2. We are able to pick up so many golden threads from this season and weave them into this most beautiful conversation. Enjoy. It's sent to you with love, from our hearts to yours.
So here we are with Amy Mullery. Thank you so much, Amy, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, and I think we met first when we were on Joey's retreat together at Broughton Hall up in Yorkshire.
Yeah, that's right. It was gorgeous, wasn't it?
Utterly gorgeous. And Karen, when did you first meet Amy?
Feels like I've known you for a very long time, Amy, and not in person either, but online.
Yeah.
So, but you became a Weleda Wellbeing Advisor, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
So we knew each other a little bit through that, and then you decided to come in to the circle work. And even though we've not met face to face very often, I do feel like you're one of the closest people to me because of what we've shared in circle.
Exactly. It feels like much longer than it actually has been, doesn't it? And it has been quite a long time now, though. Because it must have been about, was it 2019, the the Joey's circle work that when I started that. But even before that, it would have been about a couple of years before that when I was a Weleda advisor, which was such a lovely thing to tap into, and that community.
So that was actually, because we're in that theme of community, Karen, we must honour the fact that you created a community of about 750 Weleda advisors in your time at Weleda. So you are a natural weaver and bringer together of beautiful communities. And that's also where Karen and I connected, because I got invited to come and speak at the conference, the Weleda conference that Karen organised. And I think that's where we connected.
Yeah.
But we were to go much deeper when we were together on retreat. So let's just check in with your connection with Joey and when that started and what it was that drew you into her work, Amy.
Sure. Okay. So when I was a Weleda advisor, it was such a magical time for tapping into that community of like-minded people and the wealth of information, like obviously found out about you, Rosy, and your work, and about Joey's work through that, and just met a lot of like-minded people and a lot of nuggets of information. So then after meeting Joey at the conference, I took the big step to join the online circle, and I had little kids. And it felt like such a gift to myself because it's such a busy time. It's so easy to sort of not let those things happen. And it was such a nourishing thing for me. I remember even joining calls while lying in the dark with a baby, and I showed up. So that was part of it. It's showing up for yourself. And I started to learn how deeply nourishing meeting the circle is. And I've continued on with that and I've just completed the circle leader certification with Joey, partly just because I wanted to continue on with that work. And the lovely thing that happened was when I first did the online circles, which is really powerful, even though you're not in person together, it's amazing how that can feel and what you can achieve online. I had this yearning to meet people in person for a circle, and then actually through people that I knew, someone else set up a local women's circle, which still goes to this day. And that has been so nourishing and such a special, precious time to spend with people. Like I've continued online circles as well, and it is amazing how deeply you can connect even online. And I've also then seen lots of circles popping up locally. So if anyone hasn't done it before, I would definitely encourage you to look, and there might be more there on your doorstep than you realise. I really started to see it after I'd done the online circle and our local circle, and then I had a big break where I was a full-time mum, and it was such a great, nourishing thing to do during that time. And I've now gone back to work about a year and a half ago, and I was delighted to see after quite a big break from the corporate world, I'm now in a women's circle through work. So it's amazing to see these things coming in, and there's a bigger focus on health and well-being, which I'm so interested in, so passionate about. So it's been really exciting to see that it's everywhere. It's happening. There's a reason we've all been doing it for thousands of years. That's what Joey always said.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, if we just go back to the beginning, I loved what you said just then about showing up for myself.
Yeah.
And, I think that's the heart of what we've been talking about through every single episode, but you've just encapsulated it in one sentence.
So beautiful.
Yeah, that's the challenge, isn't it? Showing up for ourselves. So that first group you were in, the Healing Space to Blossom, were you in that group as well, Karen?
Yeah. I mean, it was an offering that Joey put together after the 2019 Weleda Wellbeing Advisor conference. And we had about nearly 50 women join the Holding Space to Blossom program. And I think I remember talking to you about it at the time, Amy, that what really struck me with you is that you listen to that inner voice and you act on it. You're like, I know I need something. I don't know what it is. But then when you find it, you were very clear And over the past few years, you've been really clear, yes, that's what I need. And you make a decision and you act on it. And from what you've just shared with us, now I've got this beautiful image with you, these young babies with you coming to circle, because that was your truth at the time. And if you'd have done the usual, well, I need it to be perfect, I need, somebody to look after the kids, or I need to be able to show up in a different way, you might never have made it. But you said, this is me with a baby, with young children, but I need this connection. Can you remember, what it felt like at that time, Amy, to just make that decision and then come in, kids and all? What was it like?
I think it was the space that allowed that, because there's such a big focus on being authentic and not being perfect. It was like that allowing to turn up as you are. That was what made me feel able to do that, I think. And obviously the draw, because I think we all have that deep knowing inside us that they were all drawn to community, and we all want to live closer in community. So there was that deep draw. It's just an instinctual draw. I think almost everyone has that if you pause long enough to feel it and hear it. And I did the in-person women's circle. I went with baby in arms to that, and they loved that. It was also nice to get to the stage to go without him as well when you got a little bit older too, and to be okay with that and be able to feel comfortable to say that. I think that's a big thing in women's circle, the authenticity. And I think we talked before about by allowing yourself to be authentic, it allows other people to be authentic as well.
Yeah. Well, you explained to us that you've always been a bit of a facilitator in that way. You explained to me that when you're, say, at a conference, you'll usually be the one that breaks the ice and asks the question, and then suddenly everybody else has the confidence to come up with the questions. But I think Karen and I have witnessed that's the role you often play in the group as well. When you've led, when you've been able to share so deeply such profound emotion, and how that's given other women the cue or the permission. Okay, she can go that deep, she can go that raw, she can go that much into her feeling, then so can I.
Yeah, and it's such a nourishing. You see it in circle, and that would have been me when I first joined. There's a sort of softening in people once they witness other people being authentic and sharing. There's a sort of softening that they're sort of starting to allow themselves, even if they don't say anything, they can let emotion come out. And I do think that space creates that safety. And Karen described it really nicely, where if you are authentic, sometimes at the start of the work, the circle might only be the only place where you feel like you're truly able to be authentic without any judgment. But then the more that you do that, and the more that other people feel comfortable to do that, and you can see that it's helping yourself and others, it's a collective thing, it definitely is, then you can take that out into the world, as the way Karen described it. The more you do that, the more you're able to do it in different situations. And I felt like at first it was in circle, and then in certain circumstances out of the circle, and now I feel like it's almost all the time. There's obviously still times where you might sort of hide yourself a little bit in different situations, but it's more and more, it's exponential. And there's definitely a collective thing with women in circle, isn't there? It's really powerful. We talked before about the Aristotle of the sum of the parts is greater than those alone, and it just describes the women's circle. It is a really powerful thing, and it's fun. I really liked when I started the course with Joey that a big part of it is about having fun and celebrating each other and enjoying that time together in circle, but how deeply profound and healing it can be as well. It's
Amy, I think that's a really good point that you've just mentioned there about it is fun, because some people have fed back to me. They don't want to come into a group like this because they'll think that it's all sharing of tears and, deep emotions that they don't even want to go to. But that can happen, obviously. I think once our heart opens and we start living from within our heart, the first lot of emotions to come out can be the lower vibrational ones. So, sadness, grief, anger, those sorts of emotions. But that's only because they come out first. I think that's some sort of alchemy that's going on in the body. And then afterwards, very quickly, joy returns. Because what we do when we squash our emotions and hold it all in is that we're holding everything in. You can't go, I just want to hold the nasty emotions in. I don't even want to call them nasty emotions, but the hard ones.
Yeah.
And then still be happy. It can't happen. If you're going to feel, you feel everything. So I'm really glad that you've made that point, because we have laughed, haven't we?
Yeah,
all of us. I mean, on the retreat in Broughton, honestly, we have laughed and we have danced and we have been a little bit wild, and the whole of that. Thank you for reminding me of that, Amy, really.
And just to mention that collective thing again, because on the retreat at Broughton, I definitely had a shift of grief that I'd been carrying around for over 20 years. And I'd obviously let a lot of that out and done different bits of work over the years to try and help with that. But there was a massive shift during that retreat that I could not have done alone. So it just shows you that collective, it's just so powerful to do that collectively in a safe space. And it's been life-changing for me and life-enhancing to not feel lighter. I couldn't believe, because I obviously over those 20 years I'd moved forward and felt lighter. But after that retreat, it was a real deep shift in that grief. And it's been completely life-changing and life-enhancing. So I'm just so grateful for that. I'll never forget that. Yeah.
And do you think you knew that's why you wanted to come to the circle, or what was it that moved you towards the circle?
So to the one at Broughton, well, Joey asked me if I was interested, because it was described as for circle leaders, and I wasn't obviously doing anything like that at the time. But she was like, no, it's also for people that are just interested to deepen the work. And I'd been full-time mum at home, so grateful to do that, but I was getting burnt out. That was the sort of overstimulation, adrenal burnout. And I was like, I do need something for myself. I'd been breastfeeding for so many years, it was harder to get away. So I took the decision. My husband was so supportive to encourage me to go and make that happen, because it was 4.5 days. So it's quite a big deal for me at the time. But I just knew that I was at that point where I needed to nourish myself and just take a bit of a reset, and didn't obviously go with the plan to resolve the grief that I'd been carrying around, but you just never know what's going to come.
Right. I get it. And that's such a beautiful thing to bring to mind, which is that, we've talked quite a lot on the podcast about us losing ourselves through work and, being out there in the world. But of course, those of us who've had children know that it can be a different kind of losing ourselves when we are so absolutely dedicated to child rearing. And when you have babies in quick succession like that, you can feel that you've kind of lost yourself. I know that's not for a second to say that it isn't the most beautiful and fulfilling thing on the planet, but I can absolutely resonate with that, how difficult it is to leave babies and take space for yourself. And Karen and I have been wondering, what is it about the circle that enables this deep emotion to move? Say what you think it was for you.
I think it's an energetic thing, like the energy that Joey creates in a circle and with Karen as well is like amazing. But it's also because of the experience I've had over the years, I've built on that and know that is such a good, I want to spend more, basically my ideal would be to live like that every day, which is so hard to achieve. So to tap into that, once you know how nourishing that is, like I knew that I needed a pause and that I needed to nourish myself. And I think the space allows people to be so authentic in such a deep way that is the draw to allow yourself to be in that space and to pause. Because we talked before about that Japanese concept of the ma, which is the pause between things, like the space between words is just as important as the words, if not, like some people believe it's even more important. There's the magic there. And I think if you allow yourself to pause, that's where the magic is. And it can be so hard in life these days to get that time to pause. And that retreat was my opportunity for a very big pause and just to nourish myself and sort of reset and get some clarity. And I made a few decisions after that retreat because I had the time out to have clarity and just to have that time. It's the pause, isn't it? The magic is in the pause.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you mentioned that as a Japanese concept. When I went to Japan to study with the Jōrei community, they took me to the Museum of Sacred Art, which was on looking out over the sea with sort of what seemed like miles of beautiful glass windows. And in these huge chambers facing the sea, there might be 2 pieces of sacred art stood on a pedestal. If it was in the UK, there'd have been 240 pieces in that space. But the Japanese have understood that the magic of the space around things. And Joey has talked to us about when she did her initial work with the Earth Tribe community, how they spent a lot of time slowing and connecting and being with the earth and the stars and the songs and each other without filling that space with lots and lots of content, so that they could tune into that. And I'm reminded of when Claire Hattersley on the Nature episode, Karen said about tuning into trees. And she said, trees don't speak English. She said, and they're much slower. So she's saying if you want to connect with a tree, you need to give it some time and slow down. Yeah. To tune in. So, that reflecting on what it is in the circle, I mentioned when talking to Joey that we used to have circles every week for people with cancer at the Bristol Cancer Help Centre, and the way the group bonded and connected and were able to hold each other, to speak the unspeakable, to feel the unbearable, to just go to the depths of the trauma they were experiencing, and the love that was created. I think that's what is so beautiful, is the way that everybody in the circle is so present and is giving full attention, in that loving attention. Somehow we can relax our defenses and our inhibitions and speak our truth.
Yeah, absolutely. And it shifts energy, I think, as well. Like, I think that's why it's so releasing after. You feel lighter afterwards. And I do think that's a collective thing. Like we said, everyone is part of that. It's not just the person who's sharing. And I remember that being described by Joey as well, that by sharing, you're almost shifting some energy that is benefiting the whole group. It's not just about what you're saying and sharing. There's something that shifts and it benefits everybody there. I definitely feel that really strongly. And it's amazing how deeply you can connect with people so quickly when you're being that authentic and sharing your deepest, darkest stuff. You just connect so deeply, so quickly. It's amazing.
Well, we know when we slow down, Amy, that our brain can shift into creativity and, clarity can come through. We saw that with Claire a couple of episodes ago. She was able to self-regulate because of these techniques of grounding herself and breathing. And from that came this clarity of thought. So, we see in the outside world, we're in this race, God knows who with, but we're getting quicker and quicker and quicker. And to do that, we're having to go into our coping mechanism or masking and not living from our true selves in the hope that we're somehow more productive. But it's a myth, because in that state, we're in fight or flight, Rosy, aren't we? And we are, all of the blood cells, all of the energy is going to our extremities to run away from this imagined dinosaur or tiger. Where's the blood flow to the brain? Where's creativity? Where's clarity of thought? It doesn't exist in that situation. So
Well,
we're suggesting slowing down, and actually with these pauses within circles, community, whatever, we can get more clarity and solve more problems. Actually, maybe that is the future and being more productive. Who knows?
well, I think that, you know, what Alan was saying, Dr. Alan Watkins, is that when we're frightened and agitated, we effectively give ourselves a frontal lobotomy, because that part of the mind is switched off if you have to run like hell to, avoid getting eaten by a tiger or a lion. Whereas when we do feel safe, and particularly when we hear somebody else talking about what's going on for them, we flow just automatically into that compassionate, empathetic place. It is our default to be that loving and to be that connecting and caring. And, it's not so much a man-woman thing as the feminine archetype Joey has been talking about, that is that nourishing, caring, holding way is our nature. That is our nature, isn't it? To hold each other.
And it's our power. It's the feminine power, isn't it? They do. There's so many different things that say that is rising. I definitely feel it. It's not seen as a weakness. People are starting to realize that it's a power. It's not a weakness to soften. It's really powerful once you tap into that.
How much courage does it take, Amy, when we witness you release that grief? How much courage does it take to go there? Yeah. And then you witnessing it was very empowering for everybody else. So I love that you brought that in, that it's a power, not a weakness. That's what we're reframing. And it's hard to get there when the outside world has seen it for such a long time as being a weakness. We're reclaiming it now. And in circle, it's not easy to do, but it's a safe place to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that you were asking Rosy as well about how I feel comfortable to share. I think over time, because you learn how nourishing and healing it can be, or even just that you get to know yourself so much more deeply. And it's so helpful in life when you learn a lot about yourself when you realize, when you reflect on these things and let things bubble up and talk about them and share them. So I think that's my motivation to go deeper, because I know how helpful it is to yourself and to other people as well.
Well, I think a lot, Karen and I both grew up in Derbyshire, and one of the things I was told constantly through my childhood was, children should be seen and not heard. And it was almost as if it was, in my case, an emotional desert. Nobody was asking you how you felt or, what was going on for you. That just was not in the language. And, when Joey was opening up that retreat and Karen in Broughton Hall, there were definitely people in the group for whom it was the very first time ever they'd had that kind of feminine, loving, holding and support. And so I just want to say to anybody listening, if it feels a bit awkward or embarrassing, or, it's a gentle process, because nobody is ever forced to speak. But when you see and witness other people taking flight and, sharing their emotion, how facilitative that is. And you now, Amy, so you've gone deeper still and gone on to, well, you said you were involved in starting a group locally so you could get together with people in the flesh, and that you've also gone on and trained. So tell us about that, those parts of your journey.
Yeah, so I haven't hosted my own circle yet. That's the next step now that I've done the course, but I wanted to continue the work, and I was just called to continue it and deepen it. So it'll be interesting to see where that takes me next. There's a couple of opportunities that I could volunteer to do something at work. There's a local group that probably needs somebody to lead or host it. There's lots of things that I can see around me where I could potentially take that, but I'm just at the starting point of that. So this is sort of putting myself out there, really, because I'm now ready to.
Where are you speaking to us from? Where's home?
I'm in Ayrshire, so
Ayrshire.
yeah, just outside Ayr in the countryside.
Because I'm realizing you're the first beautiful Scottish voice we've had on the podcast.
If you can
So,
understand me, I tend to talk too quickly, don't I?
well, it's just wonderful to have Scotland represented. And of course,
Yeah.
Karen's now setting up home in Scotland.
Yes.
It will be just great to spread right through the whole of the British Isles. But tell us a bit of what the training involved. It would be just marvelous to know what that took you through.
Yeah, so there was it's basically holding heart seats for people in circles. So it's a technique that you can use. There's also 8 doorways that I've worked with since the start of the work with Joey, where you can do guided meditations. And there's the first one is authenticity that we keep talking about, and it's just teachings. And when you listen to it as a meditation or read it and pause and go within yourself, you get all these nuggets of information, don't you? Teachings for yourself. And I do feel like I will really enjoy to take that to other people, because I've learned so much about myself through those 8 doorways of Joy's teachings. So she has obviously taught us how to work through those, how to hold a heart seat to let people share. And they don't even need to say anything. You can just hold that space for
Tell
people.
us what you mean by heart seat.
Yeah, so basically, if you're in a circle of women, then what one person can step up to for a heart seat, and basically the other women just close their eyes and hold space for that person, and you can guide them through anything that bubbles up, or you can just literally hold space and let them feel supported. They don't even need to say anything if they don't want to, but they usually feel comfortable to let things bubble up and talk through things together. But it's just a beautiful, you see the energy shifting in that space. So it's been nice to go more deeply with that and to hold space for other women and continue on circle work in that way.
So are you saying you as the facilitator are in the heart seat, or that the person is in the heart seat?
The person is in the heart seat.
The person who's sharing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's where that magic happens, isn't it? Where somebody says the unspeakable, Rosy, and it's witnessed, and their experience is not changed in any way, and they are just met with love. And at that moment, whatever it is that's coming up is transformed and released, because they know through experience they still belong, and they are still loved, and they are enough. And that's what we're all frightened of, really. That's why we keep putting these masks up, because we think we aren't enough, and that we've got to, be in some sort of comparison with what we see on social media or what we see in other people. And it's just so powerful that space is hold, the emotion or the words or whatever is released, and you're still okay afterwards, because that's what we fear. We fear letting it go because something horrible is going to happen. But that's just our mind keeping us in the same pattern.
And it's painful, but I just am remembering something how I saw it when we have very, very intense emotional experiences. It's like, a super high tide, and it's like a part of us gets left up on a shelf while the tide goes out. And it's almost like we've left a part of ourselves stranded. And it takes an equally high emotional tide to reconnect and reintegrate with that part of ourselves that we left behind. So, that's just how I've sometimes perceived this. And because we're too scared, and because we can't get to that level of emotional intensity without all that love and attention, there's just something completely magical about attention. I mean, I know that sounds like a daft thing to say, because we all know that we love attention. But when you get the focused attention of, 6, 10, 12, 50 other people holding you with that level of compassion, it's incredibly empowering and facilitating.
Yeah. And it's quantum physics. It's actually described in science about things that are witnessed change. Like even atoms, if they're witnessed, then their behavior changes. So it's a transformational shift. It's really interesting how the science backs it up as well, isn't it?
Well, yes, Karen, you've done an interesting conference with the Weird group, WYRD. Tell us, because Amy's bringing in the consciousness,
Yeah.
the impact of consciousness.
Well, I think you're right, Amy. The science and the mystery, because we haven't had, cognitive understanding of it until now, but we've felt it and we've experienced. They're getting closer together, which is why I chose Broughton Hall for that retreat. And then through my connections there, led on to meet the people, Peter Merry, that runs the Science and Consciousness Conference every year at Broughton. This year's has just happened. It's in the autumn, but you can go along there and spend a week with scientists who are so close to being able to define this, to describe it. And every time somebody talks about it, we're getting closer and closer. I mean, here just in our circle, we've got a lot more language about it than we had even a year ago. And they are people like Jude Currivan, who is such a beautiful, compassionate woman. Actually, Rosy will share the link to her film in the show notes, because it's she's created a film that's aimed at teenagers, that shares with them what we already know, that we are all connected, that we are connected to this beautiful planet, that we are connected to the universe. And when we start living from that place, we are very different creatures. And we're calling for it, we're yearning for it. And the Weird group, WYRD, so weird is an ancient term for connection, the connectedness between the physical things. So that space we've just been talking about, isn't it amazing that we will believe in 5G, we will believe, in radio, but some people struggle to believe these waves between us humans and between plants and animals. I mean, we can't get there, but it's still in that space between us, isn't it?
I remember listening to Ruby Wax talking about what she called neural Wi-Fi.
Yep.
Which I thought was a fabulous way of putting it, because we do know, we can feel when we're in a group, and we can feel what's going on. And when you live with somebody, you start to hear their thoughts and pick up all that connection. But in health creation, I teach the way that our energy level, our vitality, is very intimately linked to our consciousness level. So I meet people that are very depleted and exhausted, but as their chi or energy, life energy rises, they start to know more, and they start to know what they know and remember. And I found myself, slightly jokingly, but creating, Einstein's E equals mc squared for the theory of relativity. Well, I thought C for consciousness equals E for energy times love squared.
I love
it. Amazing. There you go. There's the new formula that we're working on.
Yeah. So because that combination of consciousness and energy, the conscious focus, the vitality, the energy, and then the level of love, this is the alchemical brew, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing. And so, Rosy, where somebody's life energy is so low that self-regulation is impossible, what I've heard about community is go and be with people who have energy, who give energy. You don't even have to do anything, but just be in that space with them, whether it's online, because it's just as good, or face to face, and absorb some of that. Don't be with the energy thieves that are taking from you, but be with a group where you are receiving. And that's why community is so healthy. A good community is so healthy for people.
And finding like-minded people, yeah, definitely.
And I think when we were talking about it at the beginning of this series of community, the community principle, what we were saying is that the community's work is where there is a higher intentional framework, so where there is a unifying principle, So the communities that have tended to break apart is when it's to do with power and money and ego or sexual relationships, or where people are pushing and shoving each other around. But the ones that have gelled and worked is where there is this higher intentional framework for healing, or for love, or for generation of healing for the planet, whatever it might be. And in this work, in Joey's Rising Connected work, there is that absolute deep honoring of the feminine energy that's arising, and the empowerment to become, and that energy is arising in men as well as women. This isn't about only women.
Not male, female, exactly.
Yeah. And I'm fascinated, you said that there was a group happening in the workplace.
Yes.
How did that go?
It was amazing. And a lot of people in that group were saying about the pause in their day, because a lot of people, we were all from different departments with different roles, and a lot of them were quite fast-paced roles, and they said what a gift it was to themselves to show up and take that pause in the working day. And that's supported through work is amazing. And I think it's genius that the company are investing more in people's health and well-being. But I do always think, when you were talking there, Rosie, it always comes back to me about being in circle. One of the first things that I really felt deeply when I started Joey's work was the word unity. And if everyone treated each other in life equally like that, in unity, the world would be such a different place, wouldn't it? And that's what we're meant to be. I think that's how we're meant to live. And I do think by doing this work, it's an exponential effect. Like, it pushes it out into the world, little nuggets of information or connections with people. Always said to Joey, with her circle work, it's like throwing a pebble into the pond, and all the rings radiate out. All that energy and work is going out into the world, and allowing more people to be authentic. And do more of that work, to pause and feel those nuggets of information, that knowing that you have, everyone has it inside them, to pause. And it doesn't need to be perfect. Like you said, Karen, you don't need to have a daily practice. I would like to have more of a daily practice, but it doesn't always happen. But even the pauses, that, like the nugget I got for the run up to this podcast, it was when I was in the kitchen and paused between activities. 2 or 3 times it happened where my son had been pinching my teaspoon measure for his mud kitchen, and I only had a half teaspoon, and I said, and because I'm a scientist originally, I was thinking, the sum of those 2 halves will be greater than the one on its own. And then I thought, that'll bring that to the circle, because that's a little bit of nugget of wisdom, and that was in a pause between things. It came to me more than once. It's obviously come for a reason to share it here, because it's a nice way to describe that energy and the collective, how it is much more powerful when we're all together, and yes, in unity, treating each other equally.
that sense of the unconditionality as well. Karen and I were talking at the beginning of this series about how historically communities might have been difficult, rejecting, ostracizing if you were different. So some of us may have experienced that kind of wounding, but in this time we can have the best of both worlds, because we can individuate. And I think the beauty of what Joey's saying is that if we have that connection and the love and the holding of our sisterhood, then we can stand up and lead or individuate. So it's a both and, isn't it? That we can both be fully individual and fully ourselves, and feel completely held in that beautiful, loving embrace.
It's amazing.
We're really healing the sister wound here. Every conversation we have, every interaction, every circle we go to, and it's part of a huge movement. So it doesn't matter where you go or who you connect with, just connect and be with, work from that place of your heart being open and your authentic self, and see what happens. Because I just love the fact, Amy, that you were saying it's a practice space, circle, community that you can really trust is a practice space, and then it starts rippling out to the rest of your life, where you reach a point where you're in your authenticity all the time. Imagine a world like that, where it's all welcome and there are no differences.
No judgment.
We're really no judgment. Oh gosh.
But Karen, just tell us, I know we said with Joe we could have a whole other episode on the sister wound, but just ever so briefly, what can you say about the sister wound?
Well, I've experienced it, where girls together have been bitchy to each other. And, I remember when I first started my career in corporate world, it would be like, oh, don't work with all women, it'll be horrible. And it's what we have been led to believe is how we stay safe. And my dear friend Callie White, who a couple of years ago put this wonderful exhibition on about the burning times. There's been a couple of programs on Netflix now as well, where we're really shining a light on what happened there and what it did to relationships between women. Because when somebody was literally being hunted for being a witch, their sisters would turn on each other, and there would be mistrust because of that. And we've carried that down the generations, that to be safe as a woman, we have to be in competition with our sister. We have to point the finger at them, because then we'll be safe. Nobody will be looking at us if they're looking somewhere else. We carry that in ourselves. It's been handed down through generations. I remember my mum saying to me, when I'd been hurt, she would be, well, keep your head down, don't say anything, stay small to stay safe. And I understand where that came from. It was to protect me, but it was coming from this generational sister wound. What we're learning to do now is to love and support and encourage each other in our own leadership, to not feel threatened by another woman who is shining her light. But, we encourage that in her, and then it gets encouraged in us. And that term, Amy, we are stronger together. Wow. When you have a group of women who are leading from that place, it's unbreakable. It had to be broken back then, hundreds of years ago, because people, men particularly, were a little bit afraid of it. And now it's coming back. We are mending those spaces between us. And doesn't it feel good to be alive?
When I put community as one of the 12 principles in the health creation principle program, I had no idea how important it was. And we've said in the beginning of this series on community that the evidence of Dr. Dean Ornish, the evidence of the compassionate study on isolation in Froome, the work of Dr. Vivek Murphy, the former American Surgeon General, on the impact of isolation being one of the biggest health threats, bigger than smoking. So, this is really important stuff we're talking about. So, Amy, just drawing our threads together in terms of your vision of where you see yourself taking this, what would be your vision?
Just to share more of that with other people, to take it out into the world so that more people have that awareness, or the allowing to have that, to have that knowing that we've all got in us. Like, we know that there's something there that's missing. So to just share the information, I think I'm a weaver like Karen, where I naturally over the years have brought people together and shared information, but it's more about the weaving of people together, bringing them together at the right time. And you don't necessarily need to do anything. You can bringing people together is enough. You don't actually have to do anything. And the one thing to share that I realized today was that for people that aren't used to meeting in circle, it doesn't have to be an official women's circle. Just meeting with other women is so nourishing. We've got a community cafe down near the local school, and last Friday quite a few of us met. And the word that came to me today when I was thinking about it is that people that are not used to this work is cathartic. If people come away and be like, they feel lighter after meeting up with their girlfriends, and they're like, oh, it's so cathartic. And I looked up the definition, because I hadn't looked at the definition for ages, and it actually says provides release and relief from strong or repressed emotions so that you feel lighter. So it's and it was psychological relief through the open expression of strong emotions, and I was like, that is exactly what we're doing. So that maybe helps people to relate to it who aren't used to the work, and where we all talk about energy. It's just cathartic. It's the same as what we do when we meet our female friends and we have a right good chat. I love it when we have a chat like this, where we go into such deep, interesting things and various topics.
And I love, Amy, when we were talking back then at Broughton Hall, you were saying, well, do I, because you were coming to the end of your maternity leave period, and you were saying, well, you know, do I go back into the corporate work, or do I try and make more with this kind of work? And there was a bit of a dilemma there.
Yeah.
And now it would appear you've got both and
Yeah.
you're bringing this reality into that corporate space, and that cannot happen soon enough.
Yeah.
So just absolute respect to you, and deep gratitude for coming and sharing so much with us today, Amy.
Thank you so much. I'm also a wellbeing champion in the corporate work as well. It's another thing that you can volunteer to do. So I'm bringing it there, which I was surprised to go back to the corporate world, but it's practical and it's really worked out fantastic. It's a brilliant place to be at the moment, and it feels balanced, and that's what I was looking for. That was the pause and the still point at that conference and retreat that then had the shift on. You almost have to grief the moving on from what you were there, but I now feel like I've embedded into the next stage and found balance now. So it is, and great, it's just so exciting to see this work in the corporate world. We've all talked about there's many different initiatives for leaders in the corporate world as well that bring some of this work as part of that. There's so many various forms of it now.
Brilliant.
Wonderful, darling. What a great way, Rosy, to wrap up season 2. I mean, we do some planning before the episode, but we're never quite sure where it's going to go. But we brought in so many golden threads then from the beginning of the season and the last few episodes, and wrapped it all up in community. How absolutely beautiful. Amy, thank you so much for your wisdom and your courage and your love and your beautiful Scottish tones on our podcast. So welcome. So welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Alive and Loving It. We really hope that today's conversation has sparked your passion and showed you ways to open up into the vibrant life that's possible for you.
Absolutely, Rosy. I mean, we do have to remember that transformation begins with love, and that is self-love, love for others, and love for our beautiful planet. When you embrace love and you just allow yourself to receive as much as you give, you unlock the fullest potential of your life.
That is the truth, Karen. And we're here to support you every step of the way on your journey. So if you enjoyed what you heard today, please join our community and check out our trainings and our services, such as my Dr. Rosy Daniel Clinic and Karen's beautiful women's circles and retreats, and the events where we can all go deeper together. And do please send us your feedback. We want to hear your ideas for the podcast, who you'd like us to interview, and the questions you want us to ask and get answered. Through the contact page on our website, just go to aliveandlovingit.org.
I've really enjoyed reading them. But when you're there, be sure to sign up for our newsletter and updates. And what about following us on Instagram as well? We are at Alive and Loving It Community. Once you've signed up to the newsletter, you'll receive extra notes from today's show and more inspiration to help you live your most vibrant life.
Thank you for being with us. Keep shining, stay true to yourself, and remember, this is your time to live your fullest, healthiest life.
So until next time, keep doing what you love most in life. I know Rosy and I will be. We're so excited to connect with you on the next episode of Alive and Loving It. And we welcome you with open hearts to our Alive and Loving It community.